when Maple Spring happened, started to really emerge in March with 250,000 people on the streets. We knew this was a very important thing. And our editorial position and our interest in bringing readers, especially in English Canada, the truth about what was happening in Quebec. Because you wouldn't find the truth in Post media, certainly wouldn't find it on the at-issue panel on CBC News, or demonized or made fun of and dismissed the Quebec student leaders for weeks on end there, either pretending nothing was going on or just a bunch of young people rioting.
I've been working to create an alliance between activists in English Canada and in Quebec for a very long time. Because what happens in Canada is every time there is a referendum or a rise of nationalism in Quebec, powers that be create hysteria. And every time you manage to build some support, like we did in the women's movement around a number of issues, up comes a rise of nationalism, boom, it disappears, or a forgetting of what we went through before.
If we want to understand what happened in Quebec in the last winter, we have to go back to 2010. The Minister of Finance at the time announced the budget. It was a budget that contained a lot of austerity measures, including the famous tuition hike. The democratic structure of the student movement is at the very basis of the building of a massive movement. Because it's very democratic that people feel that they have to get involved. They are the ones that directly take the decisions of whatever happens during the strike.
A cultural revolution. And obviously it's funny to hear a liberal minister using a Maoist term, so I think very interesting. Because by saying that, Mr. Bachin was admitting that the objective of his budget was not economic. The objective of his budget was cultural, or let's say ideological. That the motivation behind it was not to put more funding in the public services, but that in fact the objective of his budget was to change the very political culture of Quebec, was to change the role of the state in Quebec society, was to change Quebec society itself by attacking his historical social democrat system based on mechanism of redistribution of wealth. A system that we all know is not perfect, obviously, but that still permits to reduce the difference between the rich and the poor. And the objective of that budget was clear. It was to break that political culture and to change it for, let's say, a more Anglo-Saxon model of private services funded not by a progressive tax scheme, but by user fees. And I think that I can say we have two major arguments. The first argument is pretty simple, and you all know it. It's that if you increase tuition fees, you will actually reduce accessibility to post-secondary education for working-class children and middle-class children. But in the media, the opposite thing was said everywhere. So even if we would triple the tuition fees, the medicine classes would still be full. The problem is that those students won't be the same. They won't come from the same families. They won't come from the same socioeconomic backgrounds. So that's why I was saying before that accessibility to education is not only the number of students you have, but is our students representative of the actual society. Okay? The second argument that we used to mobilize was a much more systemic one. It was to say that in fact the tuition increase was only a symptom of a much greater disease. The increasing of tuition fees had to be put in a much larger context of, let's say, commodification of post-secondary education all around the world. Most of the economists says that we have entered a new phase of global capitalism, which is what is called knowledge economy. But there's a big problem with that new knowledge economy. The big problem about that economy is that it needs a huge amount of research and development. You need a lot of investments, but those investments are really risky. You have to invest billions of dollars without knowing if you will actually find this new concept or this new technology that will make you rich as a corporation. Since the beginning of the 80s, is the corporations turning themselves towards an institution that is funded publicly, that is filled with young, brilliant minds, young, brilliant researchers that are only asking to be funded to do research, to find new technologies and new ideas. And that institution as you may have thought, is university. But there's a problem with that process of integrating universities into capitalism, because universities at the first place were not founded to do that. They were not taught as, you know, an economy, as a body of economy. So if you really want to integrate them into economy, well, you have to change a few things. Well, because, you know, philosophy and history of art, not really productive. So you have to change the institution if you really want to integrate it into the market. First, you have to privatize the funding of the universities. And second, you have to privatize the very activities, or let's say the very nature and mission of universities. What is wonderful with the tuition increase is that it does both. It prioritizes the funding and the activities of the universities. 1 year in the past, I would never have said that I thought that we would have a strike. Never. I was personally, and we were, I think, as surprised as everyone by the level of mobilization of our own generation. After hearing for so many years that we were an individualist and cynical generation, you know, sometimes you begin to believe it. And the only cure against this discouragement is work. If I have one only thing to say to you is that very simple advice, and it's to never stop working, never stop mobilizing, never stop talking to people, never stop killing trees and passing hundreds of thousands of new faces in the street with you. You will see red squares on the balconies. You will see slogans, political slogans written on the walls of your university and of your town. You will even see a prime minister scared by a bunch of students. And when you will see that, you will know clearly that you just won.
I think they like you.